haven't done this before. This is a bit scary.
You haven't sat in front of the YouTube.
The YouTube.
Hi everyone, my name's Naomi.
This is Rebecca.
She talks about herself in third person. Hi everyone, I'm Naomi.
And I'm Rebecca.
And today we're going to be talking about sexuality and the church. So, hi everyone, today we have my friend Rebecca. Hi! Today we're going to be talking about sexuality and the church from ex-Christian perspectives. We both grew up as Christians and we both exited the faith.
Yes.
And we have a few things to say. I'm going to start by asking Rebecca some questions.
Yes.
Okay, Rebecca.
Yes. Naomi?
How did we meet? And what was your impression of me? Your first impression?
So we met through our friend Brooke.
Brookie!
I can't remember the first time I actually met you, but I'd probably say
Phil's at her house.
it was probably at Brooke's house, probably engagement party preparation or something along those lines.
No, didn't we have she made boxes for us.
Yes. Oh yeah, were you there then?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that was the first time we met.
Oh, yes. Obviously I remember that.
First impression of me is that she doesn't remember me.
I feel like I probably didn't relate to you very much back then though, because you were very conservative.
Very Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't really know
And you were a heathen.
Yes.
Yes. When were you first introduced to Christianity?
I grew up in Christianity. I was born into it. There wasn't another option provided to me. Most of my dad's family were Christians as well. And my mum converted earlier in her life. So I was always raised quite conservatively.
Yeah.
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 Christian school, church, 4 times a week, that
Yeah.
kind
And
of
your dad preached and stuff
Yes,
as well.
so my dad, when I was probably early teenager, he started to transition out of full-time working and more into wanting to study theology and become a pastor.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in a Christian environment for you?
I think, obviously this is just my experience, but for me it was quite strict and I felt like I wasn't able to conform into what they wanted me to be. I've always had very differing opinions on life and sexuality than my parents and a lot of the people I went to school with, which caused a lot of drama growing up. Yeah, I would say that it was kind of very hindering on my mental health as well, to not be able to express who I was. And I think it took me a long time to figure out where I wanted to go in life.
Yeah.
I felt like it kind of probably put a little bit of a wedge between me and my family as well, not being able to really connect to them on that level, which was very important to them. Their faith is like everything to them.
Yeah.
So it's very hard.
It's so hard when you have very different worldviews.
Yeah.
Did you ever have what you'd call a faith or relationship with God?
I really tried, I would say. Guess I was quite academic, so I read the Bible multiple times. I went to all the youth groups and the Bible studies and the church camps, and I read a lot of Christian books, and I feel like I always really knew a lot about it.
Yeah.
But I would say I probably never really had a personal connection with God. I just felt like he wasn't really doing much for me, which sounds very selfish, but in a way I felt like I was always trying to reach out to him and grow closer to him.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't getting anything back.
Yeah.
Especially during probably when I was in grade 11 and 12. I was really at a point where I was like constantly reaching out and be like, this is the point where I need you to actually show yourself to me or do something. And I just felt like I did not get that revelation really.
Yeah, so you were like asking for that gift of faith that so many Christians say you have to ask God to come into your heart and to give you that faith.
Yeah.
And you feel like he never actually gave you that.
Yeah, I would say that kind of, and then it kind of just clicked to me that I did not, just.
You spent a long time searching and you didn't come with many results.
Yeah, that's what I feel. And I recently as well, so I moved out of home when I was 18 and I had a couple of years of not really having any interest in it at all. I didn't really try and explain what I was. I wouldn't say I was officially very out and proud of being like a deconvert, but I just kind of just let it go under the radar. And then I tried probably when I was about 20, so probably about a year ago, I tried going back to church, and I went to a very different church, a very what do you call hills?
Pentecostal.
Yes, a very Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
And it felt nice to see people I knew really connect with it.
Yeah.
But I also felt very uncomfortable because I did not have those feelings in my heart.
Yeah.
And everyone else was really.
Yeah.
You know, you've never been to one, you know.
Pentecostal church, yeah.
So I obviously, I've tried a couple times and just gets to the point where I'm like, this is bringing so much negativity into my life where I could be focusing my energy on actually doing good things and behaving in a way that is,
And it's hard when you tell people that you've been through this really hard, long process of trying to connect with God. And a lot of people say, you still haven't tried hard enough, you need to keep trying.
Yeah, haven't done your research, you need to read these things.
There comes a point where that just gets exhausting.
Yeah.
And, you wouldn't expect them to do with Islam or any other religion or worldview. And as you sort of said, comes a point where you expect God, the other person in this relationship, to actually communicate with you.
Well, that's what I've said recently now after being in a toxic relationship, how in that relationship I was giving a lot to that person and that person wasn't really giving back to me. Surprising how many similarities it is to my relationship with God and also my relationship with my parents as well. So I feel like it just all kind of ties into one.
It's a little draining for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so when did you first start questioning or rebelling against Christianity?
Well, I'd say
when did you start drawing the upside down crosses all over your room?
Early age of 3 years old. I was onto it.
Yeah. The crayons.
Yeah. I think probably about the age of probably 14, 15. I think for probably the first 3 years of teenagehood, I was kind of didn't really care about Christianity, but I wasn't really actively doing anything against it.
Yeah.
I was still going to church. I was still just sitting there and just doing my thing.
Being present.
Just being present. I feel my turning point probably came in grade 10 when I started to realise how differing my opinions were to all my friends and teachers and parents and my grandparents who I lived with at the time. Started dressing obviously a different way, started reading probably more secular books, more secular movies, probably just getting a little bit more, realising that there is other options.
Outside the bubble.
Which was shocking to me. It's like, this is life, this happens. At that time I started having boyfriends and feelings and stuff. Still wouldn't say I wasn't a believer, but I felt very guilty that I was not a good Christian. I probably wasn't doing enough to be worthy of God's love at that point. Yeah, so probably, around the age of 16, I probably kind of felt the fact that I was really rebelling against it. I started to stop going to church as much, stop being involved, and that's probably when I say that I really kind of went.
And you'd say that your parents were probably not supportive of this?
No. I mean, my relationship with my parents is very strained. I still love them as my family. But yeah, they weren't very supportive of me having relationships at that time, me kind of engaging in other activities and kind of getting out and just not being interested in being a good little pastor's daughter anymore. Yeah, it was just very hard. I mean, I had a couple supportive friends, but I still felt like I had to hide a lot of what I was really interested in, what I really wanted to do, because not that I was scared that they weren't going to be supportive, but I just didn't know. And I probably still felt lots of guilt and shame that I just wouldn't want to tell people about. I didn't want anyone else to know.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you think that Christian beliefs, or at least the ones that you grew up around, affected your ideas and expression of sexuality?
I feel like the whole lack of sex education was a big deal for me, and in the family I grew up in and the school I went to. I know everyone has different experiences. I think your school was a lot better at this than mine. My family didn't really talk about sex other than saving yourself for marriage and
just don't do it.
Complex, just don't do it. Which does not work. Personal experiences. Sex education was pretty much non-existent, other than it was probably more like puberty talk, like changing your bodies, hormones,
you're developing into
pubic
a woman.
hair. Not actually. For some reason, that's all I remember. Not actually anything that we really need to know. I remember in school, the science class, which I thought was probably going to be the most, like, actual about physical happenings during sexual relations. But no, it was just, there was this little photo that they showed us that was a picture of a condom wrapper, and inside was like a ring, and being like, waiting till marriage is like the safest sex. And I was like, cool. But what about contraceptives? What about all these things we actually need to know? Because at that age, I was already exposed. I just knew things. I did my own research. I wanted to know what was going on. I was on the pill by age 14 because I was like, well, this is better for me than getting pregnant. So it was very much non-existence, and I didn't feel comfortable asking questions either. Just because for like small school, it's kind of just awkward. And the questions that I wanted to ask, I was probably felt a little bit guilty for. Like, I wanted to know actually about sexuality, different sexualities.
And you would say that, like, was it, they were always talking about a heterosexual relationship between a husband and a wife, and that's where sex.
That was the only penetrative sex between a man and a woman in the confines of marriage was the only possible thing.
Which, as we know now, is such a small percentage of how people express their sexuality. How they want to express their sexuality. But they just assumed that people will save themselves.
I mean, I don't necessarily blame the teachers, because I mean, curriculum, not as somebody that you worked in a Christian school when you were not a Christian. You feel like they could possibly just be saying what they were allowed to say. But I feel like the only talk of actually, I knew from probably the age of 14 that I had quite a high sex drive. I felt very, very confused when all the talks of wanting to have sex would be in a male perspective. Women in our school, I was actually told by one of my female teachers that sex was not enjoyable and sex was painful. And I was like, hang on.
Pornography as well would have been centered around men as well. Very much,
And I was like, well, now I feel bad. Masturbation as well was only talked about from a male perspective. And my other friends at that time, we talked about sex a lot for the future, but there was a couple of topics like masturbation and stuff that were not discussed within our friend group, which is kind of, I was like, this is kind of weird because do I share, but I don't want to be seen as dirty or...
And there's so much more stigma around female masturbation than there is for male.
Well, it wasn't even talked about at all.
It's like this fear of your body starts very young when you grow up in a Christian environment. Like, your body, at least for me, like my body didn't feel my own. Yes. And there are so many Bible verses talking about how you are not your own, you were bought at a price, therefore honor God with your body. And this verse is used so many times to tell you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this with your own body. Yeah. And so for me, it probably took me till like last year to feel like my body was my body. Yeah. And not anyone else's. Yeah. It's a very hard thing to
get out of once you're used to thinking that. Yeah. Which probably sounds very strange to people that were not brought up in a religion to think that their body is anything but their own. Yeah. But for us, it was just so normal to be, you're pretty much property of God. Your God or your father, or until you get married and then you have a husband.
And the body is vilified so much in the Bible as well. You know, whenever it talks about sinful things, it talks about the flesh is sinful. Yeah.
And so much of it is directed towards women. I remember being told in school that my body was tempting men to sin and I had to cover up. Yeah. Like bra straps, shoulders, collars. Yeah, and like obviously your hemlines and all that. Yeah. And even when I was probably still identifying as a Christian, probably around the age of 16, when I was told off for wearing certain things at my school, I knew it in my heart, I knew it was not right, and I kicked up a big fuss about it.
Yeah, you stood up for yourself.
I stood up, I was like, this is disgusting to me, that I'm being sexualized by teachers, by older men, or like by family members. This is not okay. This is my body. If you are looking at me in a sexual context, this is your problem, not mine. You need to learn to control yourself. I am underage.
Yes.
And how disgusting is that? I don't get it.
Well, I told my story about, my modesty video, which maybe I need to do an update, but of how, when I was at a church camp, I bought a one-piece suit to cover myself up because I thought my bikini wasn't going to cut it, and I was the same age, I was 16. Yeah. And I got told off for wearing a one-piece suit and got told to put my clothes over it to swim in the pool. So I had to swim in t-shirt, shorts, and all of the men were running around shirtless. Yes. And it's just this complete lack of understanding that women are actually sexual creatures as well. That we're not objects. And that's the thing, like, in Christianity, I think in a broader patriarchal context, women are objects to be acted upon. Yeah. And men are the actors. They're the ones that actually have agency.
So we just sit here looking too hot to handle.
And that's the thing too, it's like, you're one edge of society is telling you need to look good. Yeah. And then Christianity is telling you need to put yourself away. Yeah. I just want people to shut up and let me do what I want. Exactly. Let me wear what I want. Alright, okay, this one's probably a bit more specific. Yes. What Christian beliefs do you believe are harmful? Yeah. So, common Christian beliefs that are harmful towards someone's sexuality.
Yep. I am a very pro-masturbator.
Alrighty.
I am very lucky that I kind of started to understand my body before I actually had any actual sexual partners, to actually know what felt good for myself. Yeah. Because obviously I wasn't doing sex for procreation, so obviously I was doing it for pleasure. So I wanted to make sure I had a good time, especially for females. Like for men, even in Christian kind of ideology, masturbation is something that men shouldn't do, but they kind of just do it anyway, so people get over it. Yeah. While Christian masturbation is, like females, is not talked about
at all.
Apparently we don't have
literally not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry that, and I feel like I have had friends who in the past haven't really explored their own bodies and found out what works good for them, and they found it very hard to communicate to their partners about what they like, and it's very hard when you've grown up not talking about it, not communicating
Yeah.
about sex in general, to actually have that conversation with your partner, which can be a very awkward and
Yeah.
interesting conversation to have.
Especially if it's on your wedding night.
So that was one big thing that was always in my mind but never talked about. As well as, I don't believe abstinence and saving yourself for marriage is a good idea. It's very hard to explain it other than from personal experience, but I do feel like saving yourself for marriage tends to lead to a lot of premature marriages, because by the age of when typically people get married, like 27 for secular people,
Yeah.
late 20s.
Yeah.
Well, for Christian
Early
couples,
20s.
very early 20s.
Sometimes
a
teens.
lot of people I know are already engaged, married.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and that can often lead to poor results in the end.
Yeah, well, I was told, like, when I was dating my partner at the time, that there's a verse in the Bible that says it's better to be married than to burn with passion. So it's literally saying it's better to just get married than to have sex before marriage.
Yeah.
It's better to take your eye out so that you don't lust than it is to continue lusting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were actually told that that was a good enough reason to get married, was because we wanted to have sex with each other.
Which I just don't understand.
Yeah.
So you're going to pay like upwards of $20,000 just to have sex. I mean,
it's within the culture as well. So, like, even though that is a big reason why I think a lot of Christians do get married young, it's also that everyone around you got married young. Everyone around you got married between 19 and 23, basically.
Yes.
And so there's like this kind of pressure as well, as like, well, if they all got married young and all their marriages are intact, which they're not all the time. It's when you get to know these couples more.
Yeah.
So there's that pressure as well, just that, like, I don't want to say cult-like, but it's a little culty. It's like you exist within this bubble where that is the norm, and you sort of just follow the laid out plan.
And I've realised the more and more I be involved with more secular communities, like workplaces, how abnormal it is for people my age to be getting married. Which, growing up, I was like, this is the ideal, to be married at 21.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, 21, just out of a long-term relationship. I have so much stuff I want to experience in my life prior to committing to a marriage or a long-term relationship again.
Yeah.
I think very much, as well as we mentioned before, sex was only spoken of in the heterosexual context.
Yes.
While I don't really know of everybody else in my class, in school, I know for myself, I would have appreciated a little bit more information into all sorts of sexualities, because it definitely is very hard when you grow older and you start to realise things about yourself and you're like, well, I was never taught that this was okay.
Yeah.
Or anything about it at all. It just kind of invalidated my feelings. And it's always it's hard enough for people who are bi or gay or lesbian already feeling invalidated, to have come up not being taught anything about it just kind of made it even harder for me to embrace who I really was.
Yeah. And in Christian environment, at least the ones that I've been in, have not been very good for LGBTQ plus people.
Yeah.
Even people who are non-binary, like, it's just everything is at such an extreme. If you're female, you're feminine. Like, you have to follow within those feminine Western stereotypes. If you're male, you're masculine. You fall within this what they call complementarianism. That was the main thing that I sort of had in my Christian circles, where women were the keepers of the home, and they were the ones that were more quiet, more submissive, and men were the leaders of the home, and they were the ones who went out and got the money. And so, like, just the narrative just does not fit anyone who fits outside of those contexts.
Well, I think I've definitely experienced that, because I don't feel like I fit into the generic feminine ideal of a woman. I always I'm very career driven. Very
independent.
I don't like children. I don't have clucky feelings at all.
Yeah.
I want to succeed in life on my own. Caring for a family and a home does not appeal to me at all. Just the construct of stay-at-home mother for me would drive me insane.
Yeah.
I could not handle that.
Yeah.
So I think that was very hard growing up. I felt like I fit in more with the boys a little bit, but also found it very conflicting because I was like, I like hanging out with boys, but am I tempting them to sin because I'm a woman? I have shoulders.
Yeah.
I think there's probably just the absence of proper sexual education. Because it was just expected that we would save ourselves in marriage, so there was no real talk of STIs or like pregnancy or anything like that, or how to kind of recover from having a sexual partner and then breaking up.
Yeah.
Someone that had sex before marriage and was in a long-term relationship. I kind of managed to deal with it on my own.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I was out of Christianity long enough by the time we broke up to be like, chill, that was fine. I had sex with this person, but I can now have sex with someone else and not feel guilty about it. I feel like people that are still in that very conservative Christian mindset, if they have engaged in activities with people and then broken up with them, I feel like it's very hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
Like the guilt of...
And a lot of Christians believe in things called soul ties as well.
Yes.
And maybe they don't call them soul ties, but I've definitely heard it said before that you give a piece of yourself to the person.
There's that metaphor of like sticking two pieces of paper together with like glue and then trying to rip them apart and bits come off.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Bits of you are gone, destroyed, chewed up, broken.
I'm like, I am a whole person on my own.
Yeah.
I choose when I want to have sex with somebody or not, and I choose to end that relationship or continue that relationship, and I choose what that relationship is defined by.
Yeah.
And that seems to work for me. It seems to be much
more
beneficial to my health than being in a relationship with one person for ever and being very unhappy in my sexual life with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll hear a lot of Christians say that, you know, what we want might seem great for us, but what God wants for us is always better than what we have imagined. But I would say at least from my personal experience, what I know about the world and how I'm feeling and my mental health and all of that, is that when God was making the decisions for me about my own sexuality, I was a very anxious person, very stressed out person, very guilty person, very shy about myself and about my sexuality, not really knowing what was good. And then since deconverting and being in charge of my own person, just the anxiety around it has just completely gone away.
And I can see that firsthand in how I knew you prior to deconverting and how I see you now. And even I can have experienced, I feel like my change was a lot more gradual, but I was very shy. I suffered from a lot of mental health problems, a lot of guilt, because it was like two sides of me were just constantly fighting. Yeah. Part of me, I always...
The sinful side and the righteous side.
Satan and God were fighting
on
over
your
my
shoulders.
Soul. Yeah, it was pretty intense. I have a strong belief that I always knew. I think I just have a good intuition that I always knew what was best for me, and I always knew that eventually I would probably get to a place that I was happy with.
Yeah.
But with everyone in your life around you telling you how to be and that this is the right way for you to go, it's very hard to go against all your family, all your friends.
And it makes you question yourself constantly. Yeah. All the time.
Because my dad is an amazingly smart person. Like, he has so many degrees, got law degrees, accounting degree, and I know a lot of smart people that are also Christians.
Yeah.
And someone who I'm mildly smart, but no way compared to these people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if they believe and they know, and I'm like, am I just being stupid? Am I just being a teenager?
Yeah.
Is Satan really
Are
got
you
a
just
hold
being
on
a
me?
woman?
Am I just being a woman?
You're more easily tempted by the snake in the tree.
Hysterics. Women always have hysterics.
You're more emotional. You see, men are more logical.
Yeah.
Yeah. And women are sort of more like emotional. That kind of leads into the last question that I have. Do you think it's possible for you to have morals surrounding sexuality without a Christian worldview? Because I've been told that you can't. That one of the best things about Christianity is it gives you morals to live your life.
Well, I say that's a lie. I think just being comfortable with my own body and just being in control of myself has made my morals so much better, actually. I know what is best for myself, and I also am so open in communicating with my partners now. Like, I'm very honest. I'm like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
This, and like, it's just such a better relationships that I've had than I've had previously. I think when I was a Christian, the morals didn't stop me from doing what I wanted. Like, if that makes sense. Yeah. I know a lot of Christians that have great morals. It really depends on the person. I know a lot of Christians that are very promiscuous for a Christian.
Yeah.
Like, I know non-Christian people that are safe sex for long-term relationships. They don't have one-night stands. They're not typically,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on the person. I think my morals have increased. I think I'm just a better person in general. And I know that my moral choices are coming from myself, not because a book has told me to.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting point that you make about it being about the person, not about the religion, because I mean, it's hard because I grew up in a Christian environment. So most of the people that I still know are Christians, but from my small time on this planet, I've noticed that there really hasn't been much of a difference between my secular friends and my Christian friends when it comes to being nice and being good. And
friends are just more open with the wrongdoings that they have done.
Yeah, they tend to be more open, but they also sometimes just don't. Like, I have some secular friends that never grew up in a Christian environment that are very straight edge, just want to get that house, want to get that wife, like just live in that very like pristine moral lifestyle. And then I have like Christian friends who appear to be doing the correct things, and you know, technically they're not doing the bad things, but
they're just bordering in that grey area.
But they're still, you know, maybe treating people like objects.
Yeah.
In their sexuality.
Yeah.
Even if they're not having sex, they might be treating people as objects.
Yeah.
They might be using other people like. Yeah, I think that just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're a better person, and I don't think that really plays out in real life.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's very unconvincing to me about the Bible, is that it tells us that the Bible will transform you and make you into a better person.
Yes.
And make you more holy, more righteous. But I don't really see that.
Yeah.
I can see that helping people who have had very hard lives and maybe had addictions and stuff and coming out of those addictions. But yeah, like, I don't know, I think it definitely depends on the person rather than
well, I think that as well, because I know some amazing loving Christians. I also know some really toxic Christians as well, that treat people awfully. You can't say that a whole religion of people are better than everyone else. It really honestly depends on the individual person.
It's kind of arrogant.
It's kind of...
It's a bit ignorant as well. Like, maybe these Christians just haven't met non-Christians before.
Yeah.
Alright, well, do you have any last things that you'd like to mention or say? Or
I think we covered it very well. I mean, I'm very open to having more discussions if there are any questions about it.
You have an Instagram?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
It's
I'll put it down below.
That's a good idea because I don't know it. I think we could possibly even talk about particular topics more in a full video, because there's a lot of stuff to be explored that I definitely have not mentioned. Yes.
Great.
I'm done. Great.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, if you liked Rebecca, please give this video a like. Please comment down below.
And dislike if you hate me.
Dislike if you hate Rebecca. I won't take any personal offence to those dislikes, because I'll know that it's just reserved for Rebecca.
Yes.
I'll leave her Instagram down below if you want to contact her directly. Yes. And have a chat with her.
I love giving people sex advice as well.
You're not qualified, but you're a good big sister kind of advice person. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Subscribe. Yep. Okay. Bye.
Bye.